Hey guys, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be walking you through a real-time training session on the lead change. So this horse is not a finished horse. He's done the lead change a couple times, but mentally he knows he can do it, but physically there's still quite a few things lacking. So I'm excited to show you guys not only how I teach the lead change, but also how I troubleshoot some of the common issues that are going to arise. Let's get into it. So the first step we're going to start with is proper hip control. And most of you are going to be aware of this step, but don't zone out just yet, because not only am I going to show you how to do it better, but I'm also going to show you a few steps later on that are often skipped when people are attempting the lead change, and this is going to be a big deal, so stay tuned. So often when people come out here for lessons and we tell them to move the hip over or engage the hip, what they want to do is to take the nose here and push the hip away like so. My horse isn't even doing it, hold on. And push the hip away from the direction the nose is going, okay? So they have a little bit of hip control, but it's very manual, and if they don't pull the nose this direction, they can't get the hip to go the other direction. It's very important that you can do a proper engage while your horse is walking. You can push that hip over and the hip steps in the direction the nose is traveling already, okay? I'll show you this again. Going away from the camera, see that hip step under him? Very exaggerated, very willing, and his nose keeps going the same direction, okay? He didn't have to look to the outside. He didn't have any resistance there. I'll show you again going toward the camera, and this time I'm going to push the hip to the right. Step the hip over, very nice. Again, if the horse kind of looks up a little bit, I'm going to push him, bring his nose back toward me. There we go. So I just stepped on this horse. He really has had no warm up at all. I wanted to show you guys how this looks when he's pretty fresh. He hasn't been drilled and drilled and drilled on this. And we also wanted, again, I wanted to show you guys how I troubleshoot some of the issues that come up. It's very important that you can push the hip over, keep the horse traveling, keep him pulsing there, switch, push the horse's hip the other direction, very nice, switch, push it the other direction. Okay, so this horse is very willing, there's no resistance there. Good job, push him to the right. What I don't want is to feel this horse speed up right now off my leg. And you can see he kind of wants to do that a little bit. There we go, good job. Go ahead and stop. Good boy. All right, so our hip control is in place. Obviously, before we do the lead change, I'm gonna work on this at a lope. But before we touch on that, I want to talk about our next step, and that is the shoulder. So many people kind of gloss over this step, or they don't fully understand it. And when it comes to the lead change, there are times, especially on certain horses, that I believe the shoulder control is almost more important than the hip. And I know that might be a little bit controversial, but I think that if you cannot get the shoulder out of the way and get it cleared and get the horse moving through himself, if you can't get the shoulder out of the way, you can't get the hip to truly come through, and therefore that lead change, you're going to have a very difficult time getting the lead change to happen. All right? So notice that when I push on his hip here, the shoulder doesn't just dive in there. When I bring him up to a lope, you're probably going to see a little bit more of that, where the shoulder kind of wants to step in there. If we don't have great shoulder control at the slower speeds, when we get up to lope, he's just going to get extra chargy, and we're going to have a very hard time keeping him straight and balanced and stood up when we ask for the lead change. So right now I'm going to show you what I mean by great shoulder control. I'm going to push his shoulder out here. Very nice, very fluid, absolutely no resistance on my reins there. Step him around, we'll go the other direction, bring him this way, push his shoulder to the outside. There we go, very nice. A little bit more, there we go. I want to get it to where I can barely pick up my pinky there, and he just bends really nicely around my leg and yields that shoulder. Good job. Once again, push him out to the right. Good deal, very nice, flawless. Okay, now, the next step I want you guys to have in place is that your horse has great speed control. Often when you start pushing the horse around with your legs and you ask different body parts to go different places, the horse gets a little bit of anxiety, or he doesn't understand what you're asking him to do. If they don't understand, then they're going to want to speed up as a natural response to that. So if you lay your leg in a certain place and the horse starts speeding up, it's a pretty obvious cue that your horse might have a little bit of misunderstanding about what you're asking him to do. I want you to eliminate that completely before you move on to the next step. So if I'm riding along here at a trot and I ask that hip to step over and that horse tries to lope off, or I'm at a walk and he tries to trot every single time and I can't leave him on a loose rein, what's going to happen when I get to lope, all that anxiety is just going to build even more and more, and he'll just get very emotional and overthink the lead change. And you cannot muscle the horses through the lead change in general. You might get it a couple times, but as time goes on and they overthink the maneuver because they're so stressed about it, it's just going to go downhill from there. So if you get all these pieces in place from the get-go, it's going to be a much smoother process. So we worked on our hip control. You want to have fluid hip control where that horse steps under himself very cleanly. The nose doesn't go to the outside. Notice how he keeps his shoulder clear. You want to have good shoulder control. The horse's shoulder needs to be able to stay out here when you push the hip in. There we go. So that hip can actually come through and the horse can make the lead change. And then the last step that we need is speed control. Okay, so I'm going to bring this horse up to lope here and show you guys that I can push those body parts around without him getting anxious or nervous and running off. Step him up into the lope here. There we go. This horse is deaf, so I try to give him a little bit more grace. I got to be very clear and concise about my cues. He was with another trainer before he came to us, so there's a little bit of baggage that he has that he still holds on to. Lope him around here for just a minute. Give him a minute to warm up before I start asking the hip to move over. All right, now go ahead and ask the hip to step under. Very nice. He didn't speed up. He didn't run off. Once again, push the hip over. Very nice. Notice how I never had to pick up my reins there. I didn't have to pull on him in any way, shape, or form. Now you watch me push the shoulder to the outside. Very nice. Everything is in place and doing exactly what I want it to. I'm going to bring him over here. Push that shoulder to the inside. Very nice. Switch the arc. Very good. And bring him back over here. Everything's moving just as it should. Good boy. So now that we have those three things in place, I'm going to warm him up for his first lead change. What I like to do every day is once I ride him around, push the hip around, make sure that he's comfortable and warmed up, I'll bring him up to a lope. There we go. And I just lope him around here nice and relaxed. And again, I just check on what the hip's doing. I push it over, make sure he can really drive with the hip. Again, drive with the hip. Very nice. If I feel any resistance there, I'll keep playing with this until that goes away. Drive with the hip. And what I want you guys to know is that when I lay my leg back there and ask for the hip to step over, I always just lay the leg first, ask the horse to step over, and then if needed, I'll reinforce with my spur, okay? I don't go to jabbing the horse with the spur first thing because that can just get them a little bit pissy and resentful. And then what are you going to back it up with if they don't move off your spur? Okay, you want to ask with the leg first and then back up with the spur if needed. Good job. He's not really driving here. I'm going to ask him to step up a little bit more. I need him. There we go. He's wanting to suck back just a little bit as we went around. Want to get him a little more free. Ask the hip to step over. Very nice. Okay, we'll bring him back down now. A little too much. Good boy. Good deal. So I just kind of play with that on both sides first. And then we'll ask for the lead change. Now, ideally for me, I like to work on my lead changes on either a diagonal or a straight line, but because of the weather we've had lately, I don't really have enough length here to get a good diagonal going. What I really do not like to do is to get in a smaller arena like this, come across the diagonal there, ask the horse to change, and while he's still trying to figure it out, then I have to take this corner here and immediately he falls in and dives into that lead change. So I would rather work on a circle if I'm in a smaller area and counter into the lead change than to try and make a small diagonal like this work, okay? Again, ideally, I like to work on a straight line because I personally feel like the more upright and balanced a horse already is and he's traveling straight, the easier lead change is. Different people have different opinions on this. That's just my personal preference. But it's important to be able to make whatever we have work. So today, we're going to be doing it on a circle. He's kind of wanting to change already. I don't want him to anticipate it every time. So what I'm going to do is just lope him around till he gets a little relaxed on that counter canter, and I'll just keep bumping with my legs a little bit, asking him to wait on me, keep pushing him around, and then I'm just going to bring him back to a walk. Because what we don't want the horse to do is every time you put him on a counter canter, then he immediately tries to swap leads on his own. He gets all bracy in his body and he just falls over and swaps leads. We want the horse to wait on us, okay? We don't want him to get so comfortable that he thinks he never ever has to change. But if I feel a horse getting bracy and just anticipating and falling out of the right lead into the left lead, things like that, then I'm going to lope him around till he gets relaxed again, because the most important part of lead change is that your horse stays relaxed. A horse that isn't relaxed is not going to be a good lead changer, okay? Mentally relaxed, physically relaxed. The more you can get of that, the better off you're going to be. Okay. I'm not saying there's never a time to get your horse to hop over into a lead change if you can't figure it out, but you really want to try and keep them as mentally relaxed as possible. Okay, so I have him going around here, getting a little bit more relaxed. I would like a little bit more speed, so I'm driving with my inside leg there. Just asking him to step up. I don't really want to push too much with my outside leg because I don't want that hip to pop over or anything. Get him sped up just a little bit. There we go. Okay, look up. Oh, stay up there. All right, now ask him to step across. He wants to suck back just a little bit. So right there, when he broke gait on me, I'm really gonna drive him forward. There we go. And like once again, I'll just push the hip over, add a lope, and try to get him to really drive deeper instead of just driving over. There we go. Good job. Okay, I'll bring him down and I'll try it again. And this should be a given, but if your horse misses leads, like you ask him to pick up the right lead and he picks up the left, or vice versa, you're good. He thought I asked him to stop there. Then you're not ready to change leads either, okay? The horse has to be 100% on his lead departures. He's got to know what you're asking him to do. All right. Once again, step the hip over, ask him to change. Nice, good deal. Good job. So this horse has been wanting to change in the hip first quite a bit. And personally, I think that's almost a good problem to have, because so often, like I said, horses want to beat you to it in the shoulder. So if you have your horse balanced and sit up and they change in the hip first, I've never found it to be a huge problem. It's fairly easy to fix. If you have a horse that's changing in the hip first and doesn't want to change in the shoulder, right on time, a great exercise to do is to kind of do that half pass. Be sure they can do it at the lope, at the trot, push them up, and just make sure instead of the hip really driving through and the shoulder staying clear, kind of push the whole horse sideways in a half pass at the lope and get him to where he can do that fluidly, and that'll clean up the shoulder there. All right, I'm gonna let him walk it off just a little bit, and then we'll go back and do another one. I don't drill on my lead changes. Like I said, this horse has done only a couple lead changes before. I want him to get very confident and very secure in his ability to do the job and know that I'm gonna leave him alone, okay? I don't want to drill on it so much that the horse loses confidence in what I'm asking him to do. All right, so one thing that I haven't had to deal with a lot in this lead change is that this horse is trying to fall in on his shoulder or not answering at the hip. If you do run into these things while you're working on the lead change, stop and go back to your previous steps. When I was younger and I first started working on lead change, a problem that I had, or something that a fault that I had, was that I thought if I quit the lead change and went back or stopped and worked on some slow stuff, that I was going to teach the horse bad habits by letting him win when he didn't do the lead change. But that's some really flawed philosophy, because what happens is when a horse's anxiety comes up and they start worrying about everything, a worried horse cannot learn, okay? A horse that is in a state of anxiety does not absorb information. So if your horse is in that frame of mind, he's already learning bad things as it is. You want to back off, go slow, fix the holes that you have there, and then try it again. All right, let's work on the right side. He's not very relaxed right now. There we go. When I ask him, see how his head's kind of coming up and he's just bouncing around a little bit. He's not really getting focused and straight. So I'm just gonna lope him around here till he does. If you feel that your horse isn't prepared, if things are kind of falling apart at the lope there, don't ask them for the change, because if it's ugly now, it's not gonna get better when you put more heat on them. There we go. So I need to step up a little bit, get a little more impulsion, move around there. It's really windy today. Keep almost losing my hat. Nope, up. He's thinking about the lead change there. You can see him kind of hopping up. Not doing anything wrong, just anticipating a little too much. So I'm just gonna break him down and say, yeah, we were just cantering for a little bit. You're good. Good job. All right, once again, step him up into that canter. Good job. Nice. He raised up a little in the departures. Wasn't the prettiest. I'm gonna get his nose soft to the inside here. Just wait till he relaxes a little more. There we go. If you ask that nose to come towards your knee a little bit and bend on that arc and the horse pushes against you, that's a point of resistance and it's probably gonna show up in your lead change. All right, move him up just a little more here and I'm gonna ask for lead change. Step him over. And he's not answering, but I'm just gonna wait him out because I can tell mentally he's thinking about it. It's just not happening. There we go. And I'll leave him alone. Go back to neutral. Okay. Down here. All right, so those are the steps that I use to get a great lead change on my horses. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll try to get back to you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.